Hello, everybody. How are you? We are now at the September 20th class. So this is the class video for Tuesday, September 20th for technical writing. What I want to go over today is the expanded definition assignment, which is in the new Unit 2 folder, and also the exercise that we're going to be doing this week to practice for that assignment. So let's go into that folder now. So going into screen sharing here, we're going to first start by going into content. And then scrolling down, we can see that we now have two unit folders. Unit 1 isn't going anywhere, but now we're going to be working out of Unit 2. So let's open up the Unit 2 folder. We can see that the Unit 2 folder has two things in it right now. We've got the expanded definition exercise and the expanded definition assignment. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the expanded definition assignment and discuss that. So you can see the expanded definition assignment is on one of our formal assignments, right? And it is due on Tuesday, October 6th on Blackboard. For this assignment, you're going to need two academic sources. It's going to be referenced APA style. You will need a cover sheet and a references page. And you have a word count of 750 to 1,000 words for this. So that's about 2.5 to 3 pages. And that word count does not include your cover sheet and works cited page. The expectations for the assignment are listed here, so you should take some time to go over them. But we're going to be talking about all of these more next week. However, I wanted to focus on just the expectation on number 2. So number 2 asks you that you need to demonstrate in this assignment both knowledge of the term and the etymology and historical development of the term. So we want to deal with that today. What is etymology and what do we mean by write about the historical development of the term? So the expanded definition, you're not just defining a scientific term, but you're also talking about how that scientific term has changed over time. So let's just look at the explanation paragraph here. What do we mean by an expanded definition? For this assignment, we're going to have to go beyond the Webster's Dictionary definition of a term. We want to trace the history of the thing that we're defining. We want to point out how it's changed over time. So in this sense, there are certain topics that work a lot better than others. Topics where the science has advanced over generations or over decades and has changed how we understand the thing that's being defined. So scientific processes are a good choice for a topic for this assignment. Things that were discovered more than 20 years ago but are still in use today, those are good for this assignment. You want to make sure that you understand what etymology is. So please Google it, find the definition of etymology. It is really about the way that a word's meaning has changed over time because of historical developments. So the example that I give on the assignment sheet is the word speciation, which refers to the way that a new species of animal or plant comes into being as the result of random mutation and the development of adaptive traits. But that has changed a lot since it was first in use in the early 1900s and late 1800s. So when Charles Darwin first studied animals on the Galapagos Islands and published his famous Origin of Species in 1905, that whole idea of speciation was limited to what Darwin could observe about the adaptive traits that different birds and animals that he observed developed based on their environmental conditions, right? He didn't know about DNA. The definition of speciation changed again after the discovery of DNA many decades later, after Darwin's Origin of Species was published. So now we understand that it's not just about animals developing different traits as the result of their environment and passing those on to their offspring, but they pass those traits on to their offspring in DNA. And the random mutation of DNA chains is part of this. It is central to this. So sometimes an adaptive trait can be the result of a gene mutation. Darwin didn't know about genes, right? So if you choose this as your topic, you would have to cover some history so that we understand how the word has changed over time. So how do you find a topic? Well, this assignment leaves a lot of room for you to choose a topic that falls into your own area of interest. So for example, if you're interested in environmental science, some things that you might think about are what is the greenhouse effect, or what is acid rain, or what is prairie restoration, or what are biofuels. So notice that I'm not saying what is climate change. That's too broad for this assignment. So if you propose a topic, I want to write about what is climate change, that one's just going to be too big for this assignment. So what I would like instead is for people to focus it down into something that you really can cover in between 2 and 3 pages, right? So the greenhouse effect is not the same thing as climate change. The greenhouse effect simply refers to the mechanism by which higher concentrations of carbon cause the heat of the sun to concentrate more in the atmosphere. It makes it more difficult for that heat to reflect off the Earth's surface and be radiated back out into space, right? So it's really about the role that carbon in the atmosphere plays in trapping heat. So that's a central mechanism of climate change, but it's not all of climate change. Climate change is also caused by increased methane in the atmosphere, and that's a whole different mechanism, right? And the melting of the polar ice caps is also a causal factor in climate change. So, you know, we're not covering all of those things in this definition. We're just looking at that one cause and effect relationship between carbon and heat trapping. So focus, think focus here. For biology, what is a retrovirus? What is the Krebs cycle? What are Rh blood factors? Or what is angioplasty? Okay, so these things, over time, we've discovered new things about them. Metallurgy, what is an alloy? Or what is smelting? Or what is tempering? Engineering, what is a suspension bridge? What is a hydraulic lift? What are fiber optics? What is a photovoltaic cell? Right, so again, you know, if you take something like what is a suspension bridge, you're going to want to look up when the first suspension bridge was built. If you pick something like what are fiber optics, you want to look up when did fiber optics technology first come into practice and how has it developed since it was invented. Okay, obviously there have been great leaps forward in this technology in the last 20 years. With chemistry, you can choose things like what is a polymer, what is a phenol, what is Kevlar. Digital technology, you can choose things like what is virtual reality, what is a hologram, what is facial recognition technology, what are biometrics, what is blockchain technology. So these are things that are all technologies that are moving forward in real time, that are finding new applications, that are in use and in the process of product development. Products are being developed based on them. So you're going to need to cover when they first came into being, when the first initial applications of this technology were recorded, and then bringing it up to the present moment. Now, if you choose something that's not on the list, I would like you to send me an email and run it by me first, okay? We want to try to avoid any situation where you choose something that's not going to work. I don't want to have to give somebody a low grade because they chose a topic that was never going to work, no matter how good of a writer you are. So in other words, things like, what is climate change? It's going to be too broad. But what is the greenhouse effect? That would be okay. All right. But if you don't see anything on this list that you like and you have a completely different idea, just send me an email and run it by me. Okay. I'm going to remind everybody of that in Blackboard announcements after I post this video. So how the paper will be graded, please pay close attention to that. We'll be going over that again next week. So that's the formal assignment. But I want to look at our expanded definition exercise. That's the one that's due this week. All right. So due on Friday is an exercise to practice defining a scientific term while including its history. Right. So for this, you have a reading. Let's open up that reading. The reading is from technical communications expert Frederick O'Hara. It's 5 pages long and it's attached as a PDF here to the assignment. So he covers, several centuries of technical communication in 5 short pages, but he has a couple of milestones that he covers. And 2 of those milestones are choices that you have to write about for this exercise. The first one is the development of the algorithm, okay? So that's on the first page. So on the first page of Frederick O'Hara's reading, he talks about the medieval era, the mathematicians from the Middle East who came up with the algorithm that now so much of mathematics is based on, and our computer systems. So this is one option that you have of what you can define, and you're going to be using Frederick O'Hara's article as your source. So everybody has one source for this exercise, and this article is the one source. You can either choose to define an algorithm, and then you'll be using what's on the first page, or you can choose the scientific method. So Frederick O'Hara also talks about the development of the scientific method, and that then is defined here on the second page. So he even lists the stages, right? And he talks about how it changes over time, okay? So when we are, the most challenging aspect of this assignment, of the expanded definition assignment, is covering the history of the scientific term. So you're not just defining what it is, but you're also defining how it's changed over time based on discoveries that were made about that thing over time. So that's what we're practicing here. So we want to make sure that what we're doing is we are covering enough of the information, and always think about definition of the term plus history of that term. So etymology is definition plus history. All right, so let's go back. I'm going to go out of the brief history of technical communication. So notice again that both of these are attached, the assignment sheet itself and the article for it. So opening up the assignment sheet, what you're going to be doing here is you're going to be writing a 2-paragraph, remember you're only doing 2 paragraphs here, a 2-paragraph definition of either the scientific method or the algorithm, not both, right? Choose one, not 2. Choose one of the following terms, either what is the scientific method or what is an algorithm, right? Now you're using Frederick O'Hara's article as your one source. So you're going to make sure that you give a source introduction for Frederick O'Hara. So here's a good example of a source introduction. According to technical communications expert Frederick O'Hara, PhD, and then you can quote him after that. Now, if you quote from him more than once, after you introduce him with a full source introduction the first time, you can just refer to him as O'Hara. All right. You can also finish your quote, your second quote. You can finish your second quote simply by putting O'Hara's last name in parentheses, like so. All right. You can do that for the second time that you quote O'Hara. So, but this, the first time you quote O'Hara, what you want to do is make sure that you have a complete source introduction right there. All right. Make sure you spell his name correctly, all that stuff. You may type directly into the assignment sheet, and when you're finished, you're going to submit it to the prompt on Blackboard. So your audience for this is a high school senior who is interested in majoring in engineering in college. Okay, so think about your audience as you're writing. Make sure that you're not just copying and pasting Frederick O'Hara's words. That's not going to teach you anything, and you're not going to be developing any skills if that's what you do. You need to put it in your own words, and you need to simplify the language for your audience. It doesn't mean dumb it down. Your high school seniors, not stupid. Your high school seniors at the top of their class, but they are educated but not expert. So always think about that for your audience, educated but not expert. Your source is laid out down below. So this is the way it would look on an APA formatted works cited page. So for now, you can just copy and paste it at the end of the exercise, but pay some close attention to this. We're going to be looking at it in the next video, how to format these sources for your works cited page. So that's it. I'm going to turn off screen sharing for now. That is what is due this Friday. So please make sure there's only one upload prompt in the Unit 2 folder. And that one upload prompt is for the exercise that's due this Friday. So please read Frederick O'Hara's Brief History of Technical Communications first, and then choose whether you want to practice your definition by writing about what is an algorithm or what is a scientific method, and make sure that you apply the correct source citation for Frederick O'Hara's article, and make sure that you've got those citations down before you upload the exercise to Blackboard. So that's due before midnight on Friday. And, you know, please review the assignment sheet for the expanded definition assignment so you can understand, you know, the relationship between this exercise and the formal assignment, because it's meant to help you practice that defining skill where you include the history of the term. So think about what you might want to do for that formal assignment, you know, where your areas of interest lie. And if you choose anything, remember, if you choose anything that's not on the list on the assignment sheet, just send me an email and, you know, let me know what you're thinking about defining for that formal assignment, and I'll let you know if it works. So thank you very much, everybody. And we will upload another video next Tuesday.